All right, we're a little early tonight, but I thought it was time. We're close. It's about 5 minutes to the official starting time of 9 p.m. Eastern for the Unfound Live Show. I guess that would be 6 on the West Coast, but I was ready. I hope everybody's doing well. There's not a lot of people in here right now, but I'm sure as soon as they see the live sign go on, they will be tuning in here. Let's see who is going to be first to type something on the live chat. Who's going to? There it is. Concha gets in first. Way to go, Concha. Congratulations to you. And hello, Jill. And hello, LaFord and Jasmine and Angela. Yeah, I got in a little early tonight. I was ready to go. I didn't cut it close like I have maybe in the last few weeks where I am jumping into the shower at like 8:30 or even 8:35, and I still have to shave everything. I actually got in with more than enough time to take care of myself and even kind of let my hair dry. So I was ready to come on the air, ready to talk to all of you. I guess for some of you, at least you just saw me a few days ago, if you were watching on Facebook Live, when I did that interview with Dr. Teleska. That's the second one that we've done. And I will be talking about that, of course, tonight when we officially start the program. This is just kind of a little fun pre-show. Hello, Laura. Good to see you. And I should note that I've only gotten a few, couple questions from people so far today. So if you would have any questions in particular about anything going on out there, once again, not too personal, keep it PG rated and keep it somewhat non-controversial, no politics, no religion, please. I will try to answer it, and maybe we have a good discussion about it. It does not have to be missing persons related. Angela says, good interview. I appreciate that, Angela. I have a great time talking to Dr. Telesco. No doubt about it. The time talking to her goes very quickly. Fritzy, you must be new. I think I would remember if a Fritzy tuned into the live show before. Hello, Fritzy. Good to see you. Talia said, Greenville, PA. I've been to Greenville, PA. Or is it Talia or Talia? I've been to Greenville. I went to college at Grove City, which of course is not too far from there. And although I would not say that I'm your typical Grove City College student, especially since I graduated and even while I was there, I think that school, there's a stereotype that goes along with that. I am probably the opposite of that stereotype. But that's where I did go to school, and I even managed to graduate. But I went to college with at least a couple guys from Greenville, and I can think of their names right now, but I'm not going to mention them. And hello, Cherie. I got a little early, Cherie. Didn't mean to surprise you like that, but I was ready to go, so I decided to get in here a little early. I know many of you have already hit the like button for this video, and I appreciate that. Keep doing that for anybody that hasn't done it yet. Do what you can to give this video the thumbs up. Cherie says, I'm waiting on you. I see. So you were already in here, Cherie, and it was me who had to catch up. Okay. I apologize. But we got a good show for tonight. I'm always excited to come to the microphone and come to the computer. And especially when I think that I've put together a pretty good outline for tonight's show. And So I think we're ready to start, being that it is, at least on my MacBook that I'm doing this show on, it says it's 9 o'clock. So let's get into this. Welcome, everyone, to the Unfound Live Show for June 17th, 2020. It's been beautiful here. Absolutely beautiful. I see somebody already asked me about that. Laura, I am absolutely going to answer that question for you. I played in a disc golf tournament this past Saturday, just one round, 18 baskets at a place called Taylor Lake Park. That is the course that's closest to where I live now. Did not play very well. The way I would put it is, off the tee, I probably played well enough to play par, and the putting and everything else was horrible. And I did not score well, so I did not play very well. But it was good to get back out there. I wasn't nervous or anything, just rusty and just some things that that I need to work on. I've been working on them since Saturday. Thank you all for, by the way, giving this video the thumbs up as we continue on tonight. And Laura, did you hear about the guy that got bit trying to retrieve disc out of the lake at Taylor Park? Well, that's where the tournament was, Laura. And I know those alligators there at Taylor Park. And yes, there are people that go into the water to get discs that have been thrown in there, because there is a lake that runs on one side of the course. And I've thrown a few in there myself. And it is dangerous. There's no doubt that if you are not watching yourself, that the alligators will come and get you. We actually had an episode the beginning of last year, the beginning of 2019, at another course where coincidentally, I'm going to be playing in a one-round tournament this coming weekend over at Cliff Stevens, where a guy got attacked over there by an alligator. Now, in that situation, it was because this guy was deaf and he didn't hear the alligator coming up behind him. And of course, the other people were trying to shout to him. Of course, he can't hear. And he was in the water trying to get a disc, and he got attacked. He lived, but I don't know what happened to the alligator. I'm not sure about that. As far as over at Taylor Lake Park, I did hear about it. And I don't think that they did anything with the alligator. I was there on Saturday and I saw the alligators in the water. So it's not like they took it away or anything. I don't go in the water. I used to, but I don't go in the water after discs anymore. I just don't care that much about them. My goal is to not throw in the water. And my attitude is, if I throw a disc in the water, I probably deserved it. So, but yes, I did hear about it. That is the course that is closest to me, Laura. And it sounds like this guy's going to live. But it had to have been scary. Had to have been scary. Hello, Ann. LaFord says the interview, I guess, with Dr. Telesco was amazing. You were glued to your screen. Yeah, and the students, the good questions there as well. Thank you, LaFord, for that. Christine, hello. Pamela, hello. Kathy, hello. Deli, I love that name, Deli Boot. Yippee, made it to the second episode, live episode. Hi, all from United Kingdom at 2 a.m. Thank you for those compliments. I deeply appreciate it. We work really hard here, Deli, so I appreciate the compliments. Thank you. And thank you for staying up till 2 a.m. I'm kind of a night owl myself, Deli Boot. Usually I don't go to bed until like 1:30, 2 a.m. So I can relate to that. Hello, Chris. Disc golf. Well, I'm not going to get deep into it in here, Kristen, but disc golf is like ball golf in that you have a tee, you tee off, and your goal is to put the disc in a basket somewhere many, many feet away. If you do a search for disc golf on YouTube, there's more than enough. There are more enough videos for you to see what it is. And I've been playing it for quite a few years. Have struggled the last 4 years due to some yips, what we call them out on the disc golf course. But I think I've gotten over them, and I think I just need to concentrate on my technique now and my skills and everything. I think the mental side has certainly gotten better. Joe, I do know of Jomez, and I've watched many of their videos. They are actually, Joe, a video company that film nothing but disc golf videos. So yes, I'm very familiar with them. Very, very, very familiar with them. Hello, Indy. Hello, Susan. Laura says, hi, guys. I'm here tonight. I've been going through some health issues, but I'm doing much better. I hope everyone is having a safe and good summer. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Laura, but thanks for tuning in. Angela says, teach the camel to retrieve discs. That's funny. I don't know. I don't know if the camel wants to go in the water and take on an alligator, though, Angela. That's probably be a problem. Thank you, Laura, for that. But yes, I played this past weekend. Like I said, did not play probably to my expectations, but it had been almost 3 months since I played in a tournament. I'll be playing again this weekend. 18 baskets. My tee-off time is 10 a.m. I have a call to make at 3 p.m. on Saturday. I should be done well before that. So I'm thinking probably the round will be 2.5 to 3 hours, and then I'll get home, take a shower and everything. And I have an Unfound call to make at 3 p.m. on Saturday. But in the morning, I'll have to get up earlier than I usually do to get over there and warm up and everything. But I'll be over there 10 a.m. To tee off with whoever is in my group. Kristen says, I might be in the majority, but if we were playing games and interfering in the alligators, we may be to blame and should leave them alone. I leave the alligators alone, Kristen. Like I said, I throw a disc in the water. I just look at it as I deserve to do that. It's my penalty. Me losing discs in the water should be a motivator for me to just play better. So people who go in the water after their discs, once again, I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, not that these discs are cheap. Some of them are, but a new one, $16, $15, $16. So you don't want to lose too many of them, but most disc golfers can afford to lose a couple discs. Shree, thank you for posting the link. Yes, my interview with Dr. Telesco is now up on the Unfound YouTube channel, of course, where you are watching right here. Hello, Paula. Blaze, what's going on? So there you go. But everything's good. It's been beautiful here. And it's been a little hot. It's getting hotter by the day, but I spend most of the time inside doing Unfound work. But I have been out in the evenings throwing the discs a little bit. And I actually got a new disc golf bag a couple days ago that is really nice. It's really, really nice. I probably needed a new one. The one I've had for 7 years, and but I got a new one, and it's in the Unfound colors of black and red. Let me talk a little bit more, being that some of you have already brought it up. My interview with Dr. Telesco on Monday. Love talking to her. I really enjoyed taking the questions from her and from her students. I will say, though, I thought I did a decent job with it, but I didn't know that she was going to ask me to just go through all, the details of Cameron Remmer's disappearance like we did it. I think I talked for like 15 minutes straight. That was not something that I thought it was going to go that way, but I guess it worked out. And I thought that in the end, I covered the important points. Obviously, Cameron Remmer's disappearance, very complex. A lot of people involved, the phone records and everything that he was doing up there. And we covered all of that in the official episode from the end of 2019. But in me just giving a general rundown, I think I hit what you might call the high points. And I'm hoping that anybody who was watching that for the first time then goes to wherever, Podomatic, iTunes, Spotify, and listens to the entire episode, all 4+ hours of it. That's just the way it ended up. I didn't plan it that way. But what was interesting to me, and I even have this in my notes, that when I was done and the students did ask a few questions or made some comments, they concentrated more on Cameron's mental state and hearing that he did have bipolar disorder and wasn't taking his medication. They certainly seemed to concentrate more on that than what I had to say about the security guards and how they reacted when we tried to reach them. I took note of that. I don't know what to make of that. I think that anytime somebody who doesn't seem like he or she should have anything to hide, and of course can check the program out, me out, to know that this is a legitimate program and I'm a legitimate person. It always then is suspicious to me when these people then don't want to talk, and then on top of that, attack me personally. And so that's what sticks with me with Cameron's disappearance, and it will stick with me until his disappearance is solved. I, of course, hope it is solved. So there was that. And then, so it was interesting to me that the students concentrated on that part of it, his mental state and all of that. The other part was the picture that was posted, both Cameron's real picture from 2011 and then the picture of the man standing there on his phone, not looking at the camera. And that is still something. Every time I see it, I have doubts whether, if that is really, really Cameron. I want it to be Cameron. I think I stated that during the interview. I want it to be him. And I want him, if that is Cameron, to him and his family to be reunited. I just think there are a lot of reasons to not believe it's him. I'm just going to keep saying that. I think you can be both hopeful and honest at the same time. If that means that honesty is the opposite of your hope, I think you can be both. So I think that's what I'm doing here. Thank you, Jasmine. Megan says she's going to watch the interview next. Yeah, please do that. It's about an hour long. We went over time a little bit, Megan, but it's like an hour and 4 minutes, something like that. Or maybe you're talking about Cameron Remmer episode. Yeah, it's 4 hours. I think that if you give it a chance, Meg can, and you'll see why it is that I never want episodes to be what you would call long. I don't know what the definition of long is in podcast terms. I guess it just means longer than what anybody else does, because everybody else is like an hour or something. Cameron's is exceptionally long because of everything that had to be explained about what was going on in his life and what he was doing in San Francisco for that week and everything that went on after. And then on top of that, I had to explain what we did over the course of 2019, trying to get back in touch with these people and what they had to say. And in fact, the way I remember it, that alone, I think, was an hour in that episode. So the interview went to late in the 2 hour mark. And then what I had to say went past the 4 hour mark. I'm not going to apologize or anything. We like to be thorough. So we needed 4 hours to be thorough. A lot of the other episodes can be thorough in under 2 hours. I guess Tom Brown's disappearance, that was like 2 years ago now. It seems like yesterday. Wow, that episode came out. That was over 3 hours. That's just how it works out sometimes. But you can listen to it in bits, I guess, if you haven't listened to it yet. If I fall asleep, I go back to what I missed. Well, I hope I'm not putting you to sleep, but I do understand that I've had enough people tell me that people listen to Unfound when they're in bed at night, and I can understand that. Blaze says regarding the picture, the nose and chin are spot on, but noses continue to grow after all these years. You would expect a larger nose. Blaze, as I've said, just seems to me that looks like Cameron in 2011, not Cameron in 2020. That's just my opinion. Okay, Meg says she doesn't mind the show being long. Okay. Cherie says a lot of work went into that episode. A lot. It did. For sure. For sure. Tracking people down and talking to them. But I think that it was well worth it. We don't do that, of course, on all of Unfound's cases for a variety of reasons, but that was one that spoke to me, and I'm glad we did it. A lot of work. Blaze, who went after on the case trolls? I'm not sure who went after on the case trolls. I'm not sure what that means, Blaze. You'll have to type that out a little bit more. Who went after on the case trolls? I don't know what that means, Blaze. Please maybe expound on that a little bit. I get it, Megan. You don't have to explain. No need to apologize or anything. I get it. People choose to listen to the podcast in a variety of ways. That's what's so nice about podcasting. So you don't have to apologize. Thank you for the super chat. If you'd like to make sure that your statement, question, comment, compliment gets seen during the chat tonight, please use the super chat button, which is the little $sign with a circle around it. And that would contributes to the program. Oh, Kristen, that's very kind. There we go. Kristen and Christine, we got the Chris thing going on tonight. Both of them have contributed in the super chat. Kristen, thank you very much. You're very kind. Christine, thank you as well. The super chat can be used for a variety of reasons, but mostly to make sure that your comment, suggestion, compliment, question, certainly for sure gets seen, because I'll be honest, sometimes I do miss things, but when they're like this and they're in color and they're in the block, I can't miss them. So Christine, thank you. And Kristen, thank you as well. Who went after on the case trolls after you? Blaze, I'm still not sure what that means. You mean after I did the interview with Dr. Telesco? I don't know. So you please just be very specific what you're talking about, and I will absolutely answer that. Now, I did get a question regarding Cameron's case. Not maybe. I'll just read it out. Amanda had asked me, and this was a question that came in today in the group, and I think she is asking this because we talked about Cameron's case on Monday. Do we intend to discuss all of, do we intend to cover all of those 5 disappearances eventually? The ones that I mentioned, Jackson Miller, Sean Dickerson, Sean Seedy, Cameron Remmer, and Christian Hughes. I would love to do that, Amanda, if you're watching right now or you're going to watch later. The intention is to cover all of them. Now, we've already done 2 of them, Cameron Remmer, and we had Jackson Miller's mother on earlier this year. He was the young man who went to San Francisco, parked his car, and walked off, but walked in the opposite direction of the Golden Gate Bridge. We had his mother, Gina, on. And I have talked to Sean Dickerson's mother. I have talked to Christian Hughes' mother, but we just have not gotten together on interviews yet. It's on the list. All I can tell you, it's on the list. Whereas with Sean Seedy, that's SIDI, I've not talked to anybody in his family. And my impression is of the 5 cases, that family is the one that is the least what you would call out there, doing interviews, etc. But I know that myself and Emily have tried to contact their family, and they've not gotten back to us. But I have talked to Sean Dickerson's mother. I've talked to Christian Hughes' mother. and we've just not gotten together yet. That's really just the general statement I usually make. But yes, I would like to cover all of these disappearances. The reason I even started looking into these because they all are kind of in the same demographic, in the same area, within a few years of each other. And at this point, I'm satisfied that these 5 disappearances have nothing to do with each other. At this point. And I now know quite a bit about Sean Dickerson's disappearance and Christian Hughes's. And of course, Jackson's and Cameron's. So my impression is those 4 cases have nothing to do with each other. I only know, but with Sean Seedy's, I only know what is out there in the public. And still, I can't connect his to any of the others. So even though these 5 look like they could be connected, there is nothing that I've seen so far to believe that they're connected. It may just be a statistical anomaly or something else. But I do not believe that there is one overarching theory to cover all of them, and I see no theory connecting any of them. Heather says, yeah, if you don't know, my assistant Heather, her daughter Harley has been having some medical issues over the last few days. And she's now typing that Harley's out of the hospital and they're driving home. So all of you, if you could send your thoughts and prayers to Heather, I would deeply appreciate it. She's going through a very tough time worrying about her daughter right now. And I guess if I could say this, the best news is they haven't really, I don't know. I don't think there's I don't think they have a reason for what's been going on with their daughter, but I think I can say that they've run all sorts of tests on her and haven't necessarily found anything wrong that is terminal or anything else. Really, they haven't found anything, which may be good news. So please let Heather know that you are thinking of her and her daughter right now, and I would appreciate that. I have heard of the Haley Cummings case out of Florida, Kristen, but I can't say I can tell you anything about it off the top of my head. Let me see if I can go up here and see if happy to hear that. Let me. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, Casey Anthony. Yeah, we're not going to get into that tonight. Okay. Teresa says, I swear they just found Esther Westenbarger. I don't know anything about that, Teresa. That's news to me. I try to keep in, of course, with over 170 disappearances, it's hard for me to, Teresa says they just pulled a car out of the Blonde here in Kokomo an hour ago, covered in LG. Sheree, could you check into that and see what's up with that? If you have a moment while you are monitoring everything being said here. And just to see what's going on there, just to make sure. Teresa, I don't know you. And so when we get news like this, we always have to make sure that this is real information and not disinformation. I don't know you. I'm not saying you're lying, but it could be somebody out on the internet's, putting something. So we always want to make sure that before we go public and certify anything that we know what we're talking about. So there you go. But Amanda, our intention is to cover all those cases eventually. I just don't know when that's going to happen. So there you go. But all I can say is I do not believe that they are connected. Now let's go back to the poll from this past Friday. We covered another couple's disappearance. We've done a few of those now on Unfound. This past Friday was Christina Branham and Christopher Mittendorf and his mother, Cheryl was our guest. I thought she did a fantastic job. She listened to the episode. I actually talked to her on Saturday. And she was very happy with it. In addition, I think it was more than honest about what happened with Christina's mother, Paulette, who was supposed to do an interview twice. And what I would use the word flaked. I don't know what happened to her. All I know is we had 2 appointments made to do the interview, and she stood me up both times. I usually don't talk about those situations publicly. I don't use names or anything. But I thought that I had to in this particular circumstance, because during the interview with Cheryl, I mentioned how Paulette was going to be interviewed. And, when you don't, then all of you listen, it's like, well, where'd the Paulette interview go? I have to explain that. So I couldn't avoid it. But usually when I do get stood up, and it happens to Emily too, that we just don't talk about. We're not going to air that kind of dirty laundry usually. But it does happen more than anybody would probably realize. Why does it happen? I think it's a variety of reasons. I don't think you can just say there's one overarching reason that it happens. It happens for a lot of reasons. What I don't like is being stood up. If somebody says they're going to do an interview and then at the last minute they call me and say, you know what? That's one thing. But when you make a time and a date and it's going to happen and you call that person and the person doesn't pick up and they never call you back, never text you or anything, what else do I need to say? But the poll for Christina and Chris's disappearance, a majority of you in the group thought that Rusty, Steven, and Ed, Rusty Murphy, Stephen Fraser, and Ed Boggs all were involved in the disappearance together. I would say that compared to what we talked about in the think tank, I think that's somewhat similar. I don't know. Me personally, I'm not as sure that Ed was involved. He certainly makes a good scapegoat. It doesn't seem like he was a very good guy, but I can certainly understand why a majority of people would say, well, if one of them were involved, then all of them must be involved. I get that. And we had a really good discussion in the think tank on Sunday night regarding that, as I always do when I mention the think tank. If you like to be part of the think tank on Sunday evenings, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast and join at the premium Patreon level, which would be $12 a month or larger or more. And then you can become part of the think tank, and then also the Unfound on the Ground that's going on that I will talk about in a moment. And that happens at 7 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday evenings. And we've been doing that since the beginning, pretty much the beginning of 2019, I think. So once again, if you'd like to be a part of that, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast, and you get a whole bunch of other things when you sign up at that level as well. So you can check that out. That's the think tank. So the think tank, I think, in the group, we're pretty much aligned this week, which it seems to me is the first time in a while. My nose is itchy. Whereas it seems the last few weeks, the group's poll and what came up in the think tank have been 2 very different things. That happens. It just happens. Looking at what's it say? Understandable. I saw you covered. Well, I appreciate that, Teresa. They haven't confirmed anybody yet. Sheree says single occupant in the vehicle. Wow. Well, we'll just have to see, Sheree. I guess there's not any pictures or anything like that. And it would be interesting to know what pond this is in the area and if it was on the way to where she lived. And of course, we have to remember, just because there was a single occupant in the vehicle in the pond, and if it is proven to be Esther Westenbarger, that still doesn't mean there wasn't foul play involved. That is a case that Teresa says no. The vehicle looks similar, and I will have to check that out when I get a moment. But we certainly love to talk about that. Just this is maybe the first time I'm thinking, Sheree, this is the first time we're doing a live show where there's breaking news on one of Unfound's cases. It seems to me that there have been many times when things have happened on the day of the live show, like Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon. But this is the first time I think there could be breaking news on an unfound disappearance during the live show. I guess it was bound to happen sooner or later. Let's move on to, and if I just confirmed it, her brother confirmed it. Okay. Gonna have to think long and hard about that one. Of course, I don't have the highest opinion of her brother. Let's move on to this. The Unfound on the Ground. The second one happened on Monday evening. That is another program for premium Patreon members. And you should also know that the first one that we did back in May, hosted by Dr. Eric Grabowski, is now for free on this YouTube channel you are on right now. And I think that's the way we're going to continue with that. A few days before the next Unfound on the Ground comes out, the previous one will be made free to everybody. I'm not sure when the next one's going to be. I did talk to Eric on Monday night after the program was over. As the guy who kind of oversees, he hosts it and he comes with the material. And all I do is I listen to it, of course. And then afterwards, we talk about what went on. And I'm not sure when the next one's going to be. There's certainly going to be another one. I don't know if it's going to be in a couple weeks, though. I think it may be another time span of 3 weeks or whatever it was between the first one and the second, which I think the first one was, May 24th? And then this one was June 15th. I think it may be that the next one happens maybe after 3 or 3.5 weeks or whatever it's going to be. Although I know he talked about maybe doing 2 a month, but we're just not set on that right at this second. But once again, if you'd like to be a member of the Unfound on the Ground group, it's kind of a tutorial, kind of a classroom setting a little bit where it calls on the listeners and viewers. It's done through Zoom. Then you should go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast and sign up at the $12 a month level or above. LaFord says her nephew confirmed it in Esther's nephew confirmed it in the Kokobo Trib. Teresa says, thank you for covering her. I just wanted to let you know. Have a great night. Well, I appreciate that, Teresa. I will be interested to see where, I guess I have something to do after the show's done tonight. I will be interested to see where her car was found. And, we know, I appreciate the Sheree. I just can't look at the link right now. I don't know if I want to do that in the middle of the show, but I appreciate that. Thank you for sending me that. Of course, Sheree, do not be afraid. If you're going to read the link or read what's going on, do not be afraid to post anything in here. We can certainly discuss it, but I'm not going to look away, to do that. I'm just going to have to see where the pond was. Was that ever searched before? Where was it compared to where she lived? Is that the direction she would have been going home that night? A lot of questions right now. Of course, I've been on the record being that I did write a book on her disappearance in the first season of the Unfound books, that I was very suspicious of her brother, who shady character, just to put it simply. And but people do run off the road. They do go into ponds. They fall asleep at the wheel, texting and driving, although I don't know if, given how many the year that she disappeared, I don't know if how relevant that would be. Lots of reasons why cars end up in ponds or lakes with people inside them, some by accident, some by on purpose. However, driving your car into a pond seems like a difficult way to commit suicide. So I guess I'm going to have to defer to maybe some of the other possibilities, but I think that until I hear otherwise, I think anything is possible. Let's move on to something else. Just keep me, thank you, Christopher. Sheree, just keep me abreast, if you see anything, and of course we'll go probably for another 45 minutes, but if you see anything that any more information than that, please post it, Sheree. I'd appreciate that. What do I want to talk about now? This kind of came up today, and I know that it's been a year since I spoke about this, and it has to do with posting in the discussion group. I think all of you already know that Heather and Carrie keep an eye on what goes on there to make sure that everything is civil. And being that I had a guy post a couple items in the group that I didn't think were appropriate, and I deleted them, and he asked me why that was, and had a perfectly fine conversation. And sometimes, we have the rules posted in there, but once in a while, maybe, and I'm not going to go through all the rules here, but there is a reason that the rules are what they are. The big issue that came up with this particular person is he was just posting missing persons cases from a while ago. He was going to a blog. He was going here, he was going there. And the reason that of course, I'm the one that came up with the rules, and it's up to me, Heather and Carrie, to enforce them. But the reason I came up with those rules is that I realized, because they're just in the United States, there are 100,000 unsolved missing persons cases. And I know that if we allow just any case to be posted in there at any time or anything, that's eventually all the discussion route would be. People would just come there and post all of these old disappearances. Now, I feel for all these people. I do. As you know, that's why we do the program. We cover a lot of disappearances that are old. In fact, this Friday, we're going back to 1997. But the goal of the group is to have a nice mixture of old and new. And so that would certainly get in the way of that. In addition, when it comes to posting from people's blogs, there are blogs out there that cover disappearances. There are only a couple blogs that we permit to be posted in the group. The reason that is because those two people, Anthony from Blogger, crimeblogger1983.blogspot.com, and Heather Grotman from the Lost and Found blogs, the reason that is they've both been on the program. I know who they are. I have talked to both of them extensively about disappearances and the work they do. Most importantly, they do original work. They just don't go to Wikipedia or Web Sleuth or Charlie Project and rip stuff off. They make an effort to contact families, the family and friends of the missing person, and get original material to write an original account of the missing person, which in my book is very, very important. Okay. So being that I know them, I know the kind of work they do, I can vouch for them. And so that is why they are allowed to post in the group their own work, and other people can post work from Anthony and Heather in the group. Whereas if you just randomly post some missing person from some blog out there, I don't know who this person is. I don't know where they're getting their information. I certainly don't want anything posted in the group that is just ripping off somebody else's work. Okay, because that's not what we do here. Everything that you hear on Unfound is original. The only thing that's not, I do use at least a little bit of the bio that you can get at the Charlie Project. But what do? I always give credit to Megan Good when I do that. That's the only thing that is kind of maybe not totally original, but even in the end, it's still my writing. And I'm also using information from the interview that I've already conducted. So we don't rip people off. We could give credit where credit is due, but at Unfound, 99% of what you hear is original. And that's on purpose. And so I have respect for other people who do it that way. And that is why Heather and Anthony have been on the program multiple times. And that's why anytime they write anything and have a new blog out, a new article out, they automatically post it in the group. No questions asked. Everybody else who has a blog cannot do that for the reasons that I've already stated. So that was the issue that came up. So we just want to have a nice mixture because, once again, with as many unsolved missing persons cases that are out there, if anything could be posted regarding any of those things, then the Amber Alerts probably wouldn't get as much attention in the group. Recent disappearances, like I post and other people post from their areas where they live, would certainly not get as much attention. It's kind of the same reason that we do not allow petitions to be posted in the group. We don't allow GoFundMe pages to be posted in the group, because if we allowed those, that's all you'd get. That's all that would be in there, because people are always looking for people to sign something. People always are looking for money. And that's not, personally, even though I do nothing but missing persons cases, I don't sign any petitions. I just don't. I have given some money to some causes and things in the missing persons community, absolutely, but I don't sign any petitions, so I'm not going to allow any to be posted in the group. And the money where these people that I've given money to don't post in the group. So don't ever post any GoFundMe things. So they're just not allowed. So we do have rules, and the rules exist for a reason. And we try to enforce those rules as best we can. And I think this particular person understood what I was trying to say. And, but I just don't want anybody to think we just come up with these things arbitrarily. And we certainly, when it comes to older missing persons cases, we certainly can identify with them. But we do a mixture of those. So in having the group and having a nice mixture of things, we're able to cover old, we're able to cover new. Whereas if we really allowed anything that was old to be in the group, then that's all you'd get. And we want to have a mixture in the group. Now, of course, if there is breaking news on an old disappearance, even if it isn't one that Unfound is covered, certainly that can be posted in the group. We love breaking news in the group. Otherwise, when it comes to older disappearances, you hear about older disappearances on the episodes. Nephew confirms she's been found. It's her in the vehicle at the bottom of the pond. Wow. Okay. There is an episode, friend. Yes, there is, Paula. And it was done in 2017. I'm going to say April or May of 2017, maybe into June of 2017, somewhere in there, Paula. Maybe, Cherie, you can go find that for the Podomatic link or something and post it in here for anybody. And Cherie says, regarding what I just talked about, also, we don't have time to vet these petitions and GoFundMes. That's true, Cherie. But I can tell you, even if we did, we just wouldn't allow. And that's just, we're not getting into that. We're just not. Because once again, we don't have time to vet them. And even if we did, I think that, how do you accept one and not accept another? I'm just not getting into it. So we just don't allow any of them. Blaze said, how about blocking the F-bomb? I saw it on there today, but was in a hurry and couldn't be cranky old lady today. I don't know anything about, I didn't see that, Blaze. We do try to control the language in there, but that is to me, maybe Heather or Carrie knows something about that, but I certainly, I don't know what to even say about that, Blaze. I don't know. Okay. Sorry about that. We certainly don't do it on the episodes, and we try to control that in the group. Hello, little bit. Good to, yeah, May 19th, 2017. Yeah, I was pretty close. Okay. So that is kind of the standard, the rules for posting in the group. There are rules, and we try to follow them. Thank you, Cherie, for posting that. If anybody has not heard the Esther Westenbarger episode, I interviewed her daughter, Matilda. Seems like yesterday. It's over 3 years ago. I can't believe that. There it is. There's the link that Sherry posted. That would be for the YouTube version of that episode. So let's move on to something else. Maybe allow me to answer another question. Laura had asked me about Jody Huisentruit, and she asked me if I had listened to the first episode. There's only one episode, to my knowledge, so far regarding her disappearance. The question is yes. I did listen to the episode. I've actually spoken to Caroline Lowe, who is one of the managers at findjody.com, and I've known Caroline since even before Unfound started, if you can believe it. And she was actually a guest on Unfound back right around the time that Esther Westenbarger's episode came out, by the way. She and I have talked about being a guest on that podcast somewhere down the road. I don't know how often they're doing episodes. I don't know what they're planning. But being that this podcast started, I will be honest in that I contacted Carolyn and told her I certainly would like to come on to talk about Jody's disappearance. But I want you to know, should I appear on there, I'm not going to get on there and the way what I told Caroline, is that I would want to go on and not, from a standpoint of just offer up an opinion. If I'm going to be on there, I want to go on there to compare Jody's disappearance to others that Unfound covered and try to maybe see if we can deduce some things regarding Jody's disappearance. Jody's disappearance, fairly well known in the United States. 25 years. In fact, the 25th anniversary is right around coming up, or it's past. It's right around this time. I know she disappeared during the summer, June or July, but just to look at it from that standpoint, and not just get into talking about John Van Cise and all these other rumors that have been out there. I would like to get on there and compare disappearance to others where other people have disappeared and see what we can learn about. So I'd be on there as an analyst, not not theorizing, because as you know, I don't do that much in public anyway. I do it the Patreon blog, but that's it. But just to go on and to talk about Jody's disappearance from just kind of studying it. And I hope we can make that happen. Like I said, I don't know when the next episode is going to come out. There's only been one episode so far. So like I said, I don't know what the plans are. I will tell you this, that regarding Jody's disappearance, just to theorize at least for a little bit. And I think I'm going to do this simply because I've known about Jody's disappearance for many, 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 many years. Probably even go back to the late 1990s. She disappeared in 1995, and I'm sure I've known about it since the late 90s. My opinion has always been that she had a stalker, and she left that morning, and the stalker was waiting for her. I personally have never bought into John Van Cise being the culprit, the perpetrator. And I know there have been a lot of other rumors regarding, well, she was working on this and she was doing that. And it's always struck me that this was some sort of stalker situation, that a person figured out where she lived. And because she was on TV, she was a local personality in Mason City, Iowa. And this person, as stalkers do, attacked her. That's been my attitude for just about ever. I can't remember ever thinking any other way. But like I said, in a situation, should I happen to get on the podcast with Caroline and whoever else, I'm simply going to look at it from a standpoint of using some of Unfound's cases and comparing it to Jody's. Whoa, Kristen. Whoa, Kristen. Okay. What is there to say, Kristen? But thank you again. I appreciate that. Hello, Ms. Cat. Hello. You doing? Good. You're new. I think I would remember a Ms. Cat. Thank you, Laura. Let's get down. Do we do disappearances from Saskatchewan, Canada? We do disappearances from Canada. Wasatch. We do, and we've done several. We've done Sean Ginyard, Immaculate Basil, and I hate when I can't think or remember. Immaculate Basil, we did one 2 weeks in a row, or 2 out of 3 weeks, something like that. Wasatch. So yes, we do disappearances in Canada. Any province will do. And we've also covered some Canadians who disappeared in the United States, going back to the disappearance of those 3 young men who went scuba diving and fishing here in Florida back in the mid-1990s. So yes, we do cover Canadian disappearances. Absolutely. Renee says, "Grr notifications." Renee, I guess got in late. Cherie says, "Members of Esther's family were present for the removal of the vehicle." Huh. Well, I can tell you, not that I've talked to Matilda a lot. She did not let me know that this was going on, but okay. I guess I have work to do after this show is over. Thank you, Kristen. Once again, maybe my cheeks don't show it, but I'm certainly blushing. You're very, very kind for your contribution in the super chat, Kristen. Thank you. Blaze, poor family seeing the car brought out. I know. Well, it's always bittersweet, Blaze. It always is. They get what they want, and the downside is they get what they want. Yeah. Bad. Howard County Sheriff's Office pulled it out. I wonder how it was found. That'll be interesting. If you have any information on that, it's how the car was found. That'd be interesting to me. Thank you, Kristen. Going to keep thanking you, and thanking you. Pamela, I believe the same thing a stalker got her, Jody, when she was getting into her car. I think it makes a lot of sense, Pamela, but I've known to be wrong, and it may end up I'm wrong on Esther Westenbarger's disappearance as well. We'll just have to see how it plays out. Kathy, Bonnie Joseph, that's Lucas Degernest. There's a couple more. Thank you, Kathy, for looking those up. So we've covered at least 4 disappearances in Canada. I'm actually working on a 5th one right now. So hopefully we'll be able to put that one to the air shortly. Yes. Thank you for listing those. So yes, we do Canadian disappearances. As Sharia said, we even cover disappearances in Canadian Texas. We got all the Canadian stuff covered. Yeah. Thank you, Kristen, for the compliments. I know Heather's in here, Cherie's in here, and so they're seeing this as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's move on to This real quickly. Still no more information, at least that I've seen, regarding Suzanne Morphew and Vanessa Guillen's disappearance. We already know about Madison Bell and how she chose to run off, and I hope she has a great life, whatever she's going to do. But Suzanne Morphew and Vanessa Guillen, still no answers in their disappearances. Just not sure what to think. But that's what the new program Unfound Now is going to be. But we're only with Unfound Now, which I announced last week. We're only going to do Unfound Now for breaking news on disappearances that happen that get national attention. So Vanessa's and Suzanne's have been out there for a while, so I do not think that that would be appropriate for the criteria for the new Unfound Now. Don't get me wrong. I'm keeping my eyes open for that, but there hasn't really been a new one that has made national news. But when it does, and when I think that there's enough information to record an Unfound Now episode, I will do it, and it will be posted to this YouTube channel. And there's no set schedule. However it turns out, it could be on a Saturday night, it could be on a Tuesday morning, it could be on a Thursday at 3 a.m. It just depends. But still no news on those two disappearances. I think, though, we all know the longer it goes, these types of things, that the less likely it's going to be solved quickly. So, but we'll keep our eyes and ears open. Paula says someone was fishing and noticed an algae covered vehicle resting along the bottom. Thank you for that, Paula. Thank you. I don't know what that person did, Cherie, but thank you. I didn't delete anything. Cherie has control over everything, and she has my full trust in that. So I don't know. By the way, Blaze, I'm still not sure that I got what you were saying above about trolls. Did you ever repeat that? If I missed it, I apologize. If you could type it again. I'm still don't know where you're going with the troll statement. I thought it had something to do with the interview I did with Dr. Telesco on Monday, but maybe I was wrong. You might have to go through that again. I certainly don't want to leave that hanging before this show is over. Let me move on to something else. This is something that popped up, and this is I think that probably myself, Cherie, and everybody else who assists on the programs, we've probably gotten a little used to it by now. But I'm not going to say what group it was or anything like that. I'm just not getting into that. But I am a member of other discussion groups, true crime discussion groups. And I just keep an eye on what's going on, see what's going on. I rarely write anything, but I just keep my eyes open just to see what's going on. And I know that my assistants do that too. And there's something going on in a discussion group right now that I wanted to talk to all of you about. And somebody has posted in this group about how he knows so much about some disappearances. And it's clear to me that this person has something going on. I'm not going to say that he is a troll or anything. Instead, I think that this person, there's something wrong with him mentally. And he is being allowed to post in this group. And it seems that the moderators of this group, or the moderator of this group, is continuing to allow him to post. And in fact, the moderator said that I think it's a she, has talked to this guy on the phone, and this guy knows what he's talking about. But I think that if you were to read what he is writing, you would realize that there's certainly something going on, and it doesn't make much sense. And so the reason I'm even bringing you this up is because I want all of you to be very aware if you happen to put into a group and some signs that you need to look for, that the person who seems to know so much about a disappearance or disappearances or a murder or unsolved murders or anything, some things that you should be looking for to be able to tell if this person is telling the truth or not, or is just typing words. For me, one of the main ways I decide whether a person is believable or not is how they write. Now, it's easy for me to do that because I've written a lot in my life, a lot. I've written several novels some have been self-published, and then I pulled them off of Amazon. And, but I've written a lot of words over the years, many, 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 many. I mean, I don't even know how many millions of words now. And then, of course, I continue to do that with the Patreon blog. And so how people write and what they say, the words they use, their prose, their punctuation, their capitalization, and all these things, it has an effect on me because I'm used to looking at that for my own writing. And in fact, I do have an editor for the books that I've written. I do have a professional editor that has worked with me on my writing to make it better. So I know how she thinks, and that is certainly improved my writing and how I look at my own writing. Here's one of the main ways. If somebody is posting something that they know so much and they never, of course, it's run-on sentences. They don't write in paragraphs. They don't use capitalization. If the writing is just what you would call poor, and it almost seems like manic writing, then that automatically should raise at least a yellow flag that this person might not be telling the truth. The reason the way I reason that out is that a person who is able to collate information usually is very organized. And people who are organized usually can write well and explain their ideas to others. And they may misspell words and get a verb tense wrong and everything, because not everybody's a professional writer. But they make an effort to write in a way that is easy to be understood. And this guy is not doing that. Okay. And that is one of the ways for all of you, if you're ever in any group, whether it has to do with true crime or anything else, if somebody's in there and they're claiming to know so much, automatically you should look at how they write and what is going on there. Now let's just see what some of these, we've gone here for a while. All right, Blaze. Okay, Cherie set you straight, Blaze. Okay, that's what she does. That's why she's there. Or nuts, yeah, if possible, Christopher. Kristen says, I've only stalked you on your podcast, but if you have been a part of other podcasts, openly, I'd love to listen. Kristen, I'd like to add, I only stalk you because you would never name your previous guys. Okay. Previous podcast, not because weird. I did do, I can answer that right now. I did do another podcast. I don't mention it. I don't mention who the co-host was. I don't shy away from it. I think a lot of people, if people ask me, that's how I got to know Caroline Lowe from Jody Husenstruth's case from the previous podcast that I did, and I hosted it with another person. I don't mention it because I don't have any rights to it. The woman that I did that show with has all the rights to the name and to the files and everything else. I have no rights to any of it. So that's why I don't bring it up. And I don't know if they're out there. I don't do a search for it or anything else. It may be out there somewhere. I don't know. But I wouldn't say that we did bad work there. But doing that previous podcast certainly taught me a lot. It certainly did. If you can find it, that's fine, but I'm not going to say its name once again, simply because I don't own the rights to it. But it is not like Unfound. I can tell you that. It's not like Unfound. Meg says, I didn't know I wrote books. Yeah, I've written some books. Meg, I've certainly written some books. Yeah, Christopher, yes. Books have missing persons cases in them. I've done those, the Unfound ebooks that are available on Amazon.com for sure. Just go and do a search for like Dentzel and Unfound, and you'll find the books there. Still got to crank that next one out. They're a lot of work. But yes, I have written books on cases starting in the first year, and we've gotten into the second year. Yes. Just do a search for Dentzel and Unfound. You will find them. You can get them in print or ebook versions. Shay says, I'm from the area that Jessica Hamby is from. Do you have any plans to ever talk with anyone about her again? I don't have any plans right at this time, Shay. I don't. Thank you again, Kristen. Kristen, really getting on the super chat tonight, and I deeply appreciate that. Blaze says, you did listen to the other podcast. Unfound is much better. I'd like to think so. Blaze, I think Unfound is much more professional. I'd like to think that. I know you're not a stalker, Kristen. I'm just reading what you're typing. Okay. Yep, Kristen did get a book. You got season 1 with an autograph. I remember that, Kristen. Yep, you did. So that's one of the ways you can determine if a person who is claiming to know something about any sort of crime, whether they're being truthful or not. The other thing is that they claim to know all this information, but they never really explain how they know it, or if they do, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. This is also what this particular person is doing in the group. And this is like a red flag to me, because you will even notice when I conduct interviews for the program, and these are with family members, that when they say something, I do ask them, well, how do you know that? Who told you that? Why do you know that? How do you know that? Because this is always important to me, because many times family members are saying, well, I know my son was talking to this guy, and I have to ask, well, how do you know that? Only your son and that person would know what was said, and your son went missing right after that. Then how do you know it was said? I'm not calling them a liar or anything, but it's important to know how people get their information, and because that is how you are going to judge whether they are telling the truth or not. It's at least one of the ways. So, and what do so there's part of, that's certainly part of it, being able to tell. This person goes on, and you start getting the idea, does this person not do anything else in his or her life? How could you know all these things? And because nobody works more on disappearances than we do at Unfound. So anytime I read that, there's somebody out there who's pulling all these things together, and I'm wondering, and nobody does better internet research than we do, at least for what we can access as laymen, as commoners. We don't have access to DMV records or anything like that. Nobody does better computer searches than we do. So when somebody starts saying stuff that they know about everything, I start thinking, it just doesn't smell right. And then the other point of all of this is that the way to tell if a person is just blowing smoke is that they claim to know everything about some disappearance or disappearances or whatever type of crime. They can tell you everything but what you really want to know. They'll tell you they know more than anything, and they'll tell other people, no, that's not right. This is right. But they can't tell you who did it. They can't tell you why it happened. They can't tell you where the missing person is, whether he or she is alive or dead. And you'll hear me once in a while bring this up when I talk to and when I interview guests, that they will, and it's usually concerning drug cases. Well, I heard, this person told me that this is what happened, and they're being really descriptive and everything. And then I'll say, yeah, they can tell you everything but what you really want to know. And it's amazing how much that happens, that these people can tell you everything there is need to know up until the point when the disappearance happened. Then they're like, well, we just have no idea. And that should also raise a red flag if you're ever, once again, this doesn't happen in the Unfound group because we really monitor what people are writing and what they're saying. And if we think somebody is BSing, their comments get deleted. And if they keep doing it, they get blocked. But I think a lot of people realize if they are members of other groups, that other groups are not moderated like that. So that just kind of caught my attention. I know that I had even sent a message to all my assistants this morning about what I saw. And I just couldn't believe that the moderator of the group actually went on there and was vouching for this person. And it was obvious to me that this person, they may not be lying. It seems more likely to me that this person has something going on. Maybe you could compare it a little bit to Steve Pankey. Little paranoia going on. Of course, in Steve Pankey's case, he's of course saying that he had nothing to do with Jolene Matthews' disappearance, and I am inclined to believe that. Whereas this person that was typing in this other group was way worse than that, but it was kind of along that. It seemed like this person did have some sort of obsessive compulsive disorder, manic type of personality. In addition, this person doesn't have a picture with his profile, and that sometimes causes me to wonder, although I will tell you that there is one guy that I talk to quite often on Facebook. He doesn't have a picture posted either. In fact, he doesn't even use his real name, but I know him for other reasons. But those types of things catch my attention. So I just want you all to watch out for that. And don't be so easily convinced when somebody gets in some group that you're in and starts professing how much they know something. I'm just giving you some pointers on how to say, you know what, I think there's something up with this. This doesn't sound kosher. And I thought that might be helpful. Just really, I don't think I've ever talked about that before, but I thought I needed to after I saw what was going on once again in another group. I'm not going to name the group. I'm not going to name the people involved or the cases that we were talking about because I'm just not going to do that. But it was something that caught my attention that I wanted to pass on to all of you because I think that all of you can learn something from it. And at Unfound, we're all about teaching. We're trying to give you the skills to be great investigators out there. And I think this is, I think this information was very important. Thank you, Laura, for that. Thank you for upgrading. I appreciate that. Let's see here. LaFord. Yep. I'm just going through these. Blaze says some of those people have mental illness. They want to be involved in a case. Someone told them the body went in the pigsty or store. Yeah. I get a lot of pig stories and wood chipper stories behind the scenes, Blaze. There's no doubt about that. I've made the joke, although I don't know how funny it is, that if I were to believe all of the pig stories and wood chipper stories that I've ever heard, that it would seem that every pig farmer in the United States has been involved in a murder. And the only reason that wood chippers are sold is to is to get rid of human bodies. That is how many stories like those I've heard over the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years now. Of course, we know that's not the case. Laura, like the guy who obsessed over John Benet Ramsey, Laura, that is a perfect example. Perfect example. Yes. Thank you, Fishing. You're late. That's okay. You are excused. Paula says, the think tank has helped me listen more critically when I listen to the episode, sometimes even taking notes of things in order to ask questions or contribute to the discussion. Paula, I think that's a great idea. And if you are in a position where you can listen to the episode and take notes at the same time, I think that's great. Great. Thank you for doing that. And one of the points about Unfound is we do want people to think more critically about these disappearances and not just take what is generally known about them. I try to ask hard questions to, get rid of any doubt. Now, we can't always do that, but I'd like to think that I ask questions that all of you would ask. And even sometimes if I need to ask a question that makes the guest uncomfortable, and you've heard me do that sometimes. I've even said, I'm sorry I have to ask this, but that's my job. And then I'll ask the question. And that's the truth. That's the truth. I just want to remind all of you again, if you're watching, if you've not given this video a thumbs up yet on YouTube or given a like, please do that. If you haven't done that yet, we haven't quite a few likes so far, but we can always have a few more. So do not forget to do that. LaFord says, Paula, you are wicked smart and have called a few, and your suggestions are always on the chat. I think everybody in the think tank's great. I don't think a week goes by where I don't read something that I hadn't thought of. And that is really good because nobody has covered these disappearances more than I'm with them from the beginning until they get on the program. And so when I can still be taught something new, somebody looks at it in a different way, that certainly tells me that all of you are certainly using your IQs out there. Thank you again, Kristen. Kristen has her, I don't know, Kristen, maybe the button is stuck on the super chat tonight. I'm, of course, joking around, but I deeply appreciate it. So always be careful out there. The internet there's a lot of anonymity out there, and you never can be sure who you're talking to, no matter who it seems that person might be. I would always urge caution. I would always urge you to be a cynic when it comes to somebody saying they know so much about a murder or disappearance. Let them prove it to you. And then once they start talking and typing or whatever, analyze every word that they type. That's the best way to do it. Just let them go and see if it makes any sense to you. Okay. Anything else? Any questions for me? Like I said, I only had a couple questions going into tonight, and that's fine. There were a couple good ones. Let's get to this. This is something that I saw that caught my. Thank you, Fishing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much in the super chat. There was a case of Ryan Zimmerman, and this is a case that is still posted on the Charlie Project, even though there isn't much of. I think it's a 3-line write-up on the Charlie Project. Ryan Zimmerman disappeared from Columbus, Ohio back in 2015, and he was finally identified. Now, his remains had been found in 2016 in the Grand Lake St. Mary's State Park, which is also in Ohio, but it's about 2 hours away from Columbus. And so the remains were found in 2016. The skull has still not been found. But finally, here in 2020, DNA tests were done, and the remains were identified as Ryan's. And once again, this is a case, he was a missing person from Columbus, Ohio. And now his family now knows that his remains were found in this state park. Now, what is couple things that caught my eye? He was dismembered. It wasn't that the remains were just there as if somebody murdered him and just laid him out there. What they said in the article that I saw today was that his body had actually been cut apart using a saw, a knife, something like that. And so the remains were there, but not all of the remains were there. And the reason is because he was dismembered. Not every, that's kind of unique. We know that some killers do dismember victims, but this is the first time in a while where I think we've had a disappearance case, and when the remains are found, that they can determine that the person, the victim, was dismembered. That caught my eye. The other thing, of course, everybody thinks about Columbus, Ohio. They automatically think of Brian Schaefer. I'm not going to say this has anything to do with that, but that did pop into my head. And the other thing that caught my eye regarding this disappearance was that he was not originally from Columbus, Ohio. He was from Kentucky. And he said that he had met some friends online friends. And they were all going to go to Columbus. And then he gets there in 2015 and then disappears somehow. And his remains end up in this Grand Lake St. Mary's State Park. Now, I have to believe, given that his body was dismembered, that something, of course, of foul play nature occurred. I guess it's possible that some accident occurred. Maybe he overdosed. Maybe he was into drugs. I don't know much about Ryan. I only know what I read on the Charlie Project and what was in this article. But it would seem weird to me if he overdosed, that then those people decide to hack his body up and everything. That, even for me, who has seen mostly everything regarding disappearances, that seems unusual to me. When I read about a disappearance or a murder and the body was dismembered, then I start thinking that, this was something that was very personal, something that went wrong. And it was certainly in an effort to make sure that the body couldn't be identified. Now, why was these remains found? I don't know. It seems that whoever tried to dispose of them did not do a very good job of it. But being that this Ryan was dismembered, this certainly rules out any sort of accident. This is something else. So I don't know if you caught that. I noticed it, and I wanted to bring it up to all of you. So there is another disappearance that is on the Charlie Project website that has now, the body has been found. Now, I guess the goal is to find up who would have dismembered Ryan Zimmerman. Once again, kind of a unique circumstance. Free range of credit cards. Okay, Kristen. Thank you, Fishing. Blaze said he or she saw that. It says, I saw that. It was horrible. Only his trunk. Yeah. Yep. Skull not found, Blaze. Yep. Carlene says, do they know if he was dismembered at the park or elsewhere prior to being dumped? I don't know. They probably can be able to, they can determine that, Carlene, somehow scientifically, but I would think that that is something you would do before you get to the state park. Because the human body is not easy to, especially if you're out in the wild, to take apart. If you're going to really, really wait until the body is really deteriorated, then you're going to be waiting a long time before you can actually tear it apart. So it's if you want to do it, and I'm not here to be morbid, but if you're going to ask if they did this right after Ryan died, if this wasn't in the process of dying, if he was already dead, then you need some really serious instruments, serious tools to chop up the human body. Of course, I think maybe a lot of people maybe think of The Sopranos when once in a while they had to show them cutting up a body. They're using a bandsaw, etc. How you would do that out in the middle of nowhere in a state park, I suppose you could. I think it would take a lot of time, and I think it would be a lot of work. a lot of work. The muscles and tendons and ligaments of the human body are pretty tough. So I'm inclined to think that he was probably dismembered somewhere else and then deposited there. Just hate thinking about these things, but that's the world, and that's not changing anytime soon. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you for another super chat tonight. Thank you, everybody. Kristen and Christopher, thank you. I know we had Christine earlier as well. Thank you all and Fishing. Thank you all for contributing tonight. Deeply, deeply appreciated. Laura says it sounds personal. It does, Laura. It does. This Ryan Zimmerman case, it kind of does. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you very much. Fishing. Hey, Ed, the last time I got to listen to your live show, you said an update on Dow Phillips. Anything you can share? Nothing yet. I will say that I have Cherie on a task regarding that right now, but I don't think I want to talk about it. But Cherie and I have certainly talked about that, and we have no results yet. And in any case, those results would go to Dow's wife first, and then we would decide if it's fit to be talked about or written about. But we're working on it. Blaze said, I think they chopped them up to fit into something to take in the cart. Certainly possible. That makes a lot of sense, Blaze. Certainly does. Certainly does. So that's all it for the topics that I brought to the table tonight. So I guess we still have to talk about this Friday's disappearance. And that is the disappearance of Gregory Howells, Howells, from Carmel Valley, California. Of course, when I think of Carmel Valley, I think of the Pebble Beach Golf Course, where the AT&T Pro-Am is played every February or March. I think it's February. And they've also hosted some U.S. Opens there. But it's one of the most beautiful golf courses in the world. It's right on the Pacific Ocean. But Carmel Valley, kind of an upper scale area, as you would expect. But Gregory Howells disappeared from Carmel Valley, California on June 17th. So today is the 23rd anniversary of his disappearance. And the guest for this episode is going to be his wife at the time. They are no longer married. She had him declared deceased in 2002. But his former wife, although I do call her his wife during the episode, but his former wife, Sherry Glazer, is my guest. And the general facts of Gregory's disappearance is that he and his wife were in the entertainment business. In fact, his wife still is. And in fact, I think she is the first guest on Unfound who has her very own Wikipedia page. And you can look that up. She's been doing, I guess you would call comedy for over 30 years now. She thinks she got attention for doing a one-woman show playing different characters. And so you will find her. You can find her on YouTube and elsewhere. But she was married to Greg. They were married for about 10 years. And he directed her play. She was the actress and he was the director. But in 1997, as you will hear her tell it, started to go downhill. He was frustrated, I think, maybe with the way his part of their career was going. She was getting a lot of attention, and he was doing some writing that was on his own that was getting rejected. And he was putting on weight. He was lying to her about some of the things that he was doing. He said he was going to this retreat to kind of get his mind right. And it turned out when he came home, actually just went to Vegas for 10 days. So Greg had some things going on. And so on the day of the disappearance, though, he was into golf, not a serious golfer, but he liked to go out there. And Rancho Cañada was the course that he used to go to. Now, you should know that this particular golf club has 2 courses in one location. But he used to go there to golf, and he would go out in the late afternoon and usually golf until it was dark. Well, that's what happened this time on June 17th, 1997, but he didn't come home that night. And the next morning, when the employees of the golf course got there, they discovered that his cart was found on the 13th tee of the West course. Most of his clubs were in the cart, but a couple of his clubs were actually on the ground at the tee. And his car was still in the parking lot. And if you're wondering, well, that's a little weird. I mean, wouldn't they check to make sure all the carts are in the night before they would leave? And why would they leave if somebody's car was still in the parking lot? Why would they do that? That's a very good question. And to answer that, I was actually able to track down an employee of the Rancho Cañada golf course at the time. Rancho Cañada is not open anymore. It shut down a few years ago. But I was able to track down a person who worked on the golf course at the time. And I got to talk to him for about an hour, maybe about 6 weeks ago. And I did take notes of the conversation. And you will hear my notes from that conversation after the interview with Sherry. This guy was on the scene that morning. He was one of the first people to find the golf cart there, to see the clubs, to see Greg's car in the parking lot. And Greg has never been seen since. No sightings of him, no rumors of anybody seeing him. It seems there's a couple ways to interpret this disappearance. Either one, he was on the tee and somebody came up to him and abducted him, attacked him, and took him away. Or he just walked out of his life and kind of made it look like somebody attacked him. And of course, it'll be up to you to determine what you think about all of this. The title for this episode is called Setting the Stage, because Greg and Sherry were in entertainment, of course, on stage. But you could, of course, look at that word stage and look at another definition for that word as well. So kind of a unique disappearance in that it very well could be that Greg did stage his own disappearance. We've talked a lot about disappearances where people have seemed to have walked away. Christopher Sanders, possibly Eric Alvarado, to name just a few. But I don't know how many that we've had where we thought something was staged, as this might have been. And so I think this is another unique disappearance. Sherry did a great interview. I will tell you right now, she's a little bit of a character. She's very laid back during this interview. I don't want you to think that because of that, she doesn't care. I think she deeply cares about finding out what happened to her husband at the time, Greg, back then. They had 2 daughters together. But as I've told my assistants, this is probably one of the most laid back, serious interviews I've done in Unfound's existence. Mainly because I think that Sherry is just Sherry's personality, but make no doubt, I think that she really would like to find out what happened to Greg. I think it is important to her. I think it's important to her daughters. And she does talk about how she had to put herself together, because she and her husband were a team doing these productions, and then he disappears and she's all by herself. So it was great to talk to her. We arranged it so this episode would come out around the time of the anniversary of his disappearance. Thank you, Christine, for that. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. But that is the disappearance for this Friday. Lots of articles. I've already posted a couple in the discussion group and on the page about this back then. It got, unlike some of the recent disappearances we've covered, this one got a lot of press attention. I think because of the area in which it happened. I think because Greg and Sherry were well known in that community, and especially considering the work, the entertainment work that they did together for many years. So there are quite a few articles that were written about this disappearance. And so you will be able to read those articles and then hear the interview with Sherry and just decide for yourself what happened. And by the way, there will be a map for this, because I think that's very important to understand the golf course and where that tee was and how that all goes together. And then I will also be doing a video. I have not shot it yet. I'll probably do it tomorrow. I'll be doing a video to also put on the YouTube channel so all of you can better understand some of the things we talk about during the interview, because it may not be totally clear how we, as I've said, it's hard to explain maps and directions with just audio. And by now that I enjoy doing those videos. And so if I have an opportunity to do them, then I do them, especially if I think it's going to help all of you understand a disappearance better. Paula said, was it different interviewing someone who's a performer? Well, I think, like I said, it was a unique, I think it's a spectacular. I just, of course, listened to the interview today and tweaked the audio and some things. I think it's a fantastic interview, simply because, I can tell when somebody is used to being interviewed, maybe not about a missing persons case, but anything. And that makes it easier for me when I'm talking to somebody who is used to being interviewed. And Sherry is certainly used to being interviewed. Maybe not recently about her husband's disappearance, but about all the work that she has done in entertainment over 30 some years, because she's been quite successful. And so that certainly helped. And I think it also helped, Paula, that I also have an entertainment background. And although I would not say that I was your typical entertainment person, that I can relate to them. I think that I understand their personalities. And I think that certainly helped in this particular interview. And I think that shows through. So I think it was different to interview her, because she probably, more than anybody else that has ever been on the program, has been interviewed more than any of them. And so people who are used to being interviewed do good interviews, especially if it's about something they care about, like her husband / ex-husband's disappearance. So it was different. I greatly enjoyed it. And in fact, just listening to it today, it was just like, man, this was really good. This is really good. And she is a character. She's a comedian. The work that she does, these one-woman shows, are comedic productions. And I think that kind of shows through a little bit in the interview. Like I said, it's one of the most laid-back, serious interviews that I think I've ever done for Unfound, or ever. So that would be forever. But that's all I got tonight. I'm going to certainly have to look into this Esther Westenbarger news. And I will probably post something about that. Maybe I'll be able to get in touch with Matilda and look exactly where this pond is and everything else. Maybe I'll do a video on that too. Have to think about it. But what we do tonight, talked about last weekend's disc golf tournament. Didn't play well. Got another one coming up this weekend. Just one round though. Dr. Telesco, great interview. Love talking to her. Talked about the Mittendorf / Branham poll. Remember, there will be a map and video for this Friday's episode. Talked about Unfound on the Ground. We talk about just some signs that you need to look for if you see somebody who claims they know everything about a murder or disappearance, some things that should cause you to question really if this person's telling the truth or not. Talked about, kind of went over the rules again for posting in the group. Talked about how there is no new news for Suzanne Morphew and Vanessa Guillen's disappearances. Talked about Ryan Zimmerman and his remains being identified in Ohio. Took some questions from you. Kristen, I think, went broke, contributing to the super chat tonight. Christine and others who contributed. Christopher, a lot of Kristen. What is going on with the Chris's tonight? That's great. Everybody that contributed through the super chat tonight, I cannot thank you enough. That means so much. Thank you. Took some questions and then talked about this Friday's episode, the disappearance of Gregory Howells from Carmel Valley, California on June 17th, 1997. An episode that's called Setting the Stage. And his former wife, Sherry Glazer, will be the guest. That's all I got. Hour and 41 minutes tonight. Good show. All right, everyone. Have a great time. Be safe out there. And you'll hear me on Friday. Good night.